Hey everyone, Michael here with another video. So today what we're going to be doing is scanning in our adjusted try-in denture, and we're going to be scanning it with our desktop scanner, and then we're going to go through how we send this off to the lab and creating a lab script for it as well.
So one of the great things with these digital dentures is that you're able to make a lot of changes to them, but it is in a little bit of a different way than a conventional denture. So one of the most important things to do is if there's any changes at all to the try-in, which there always are, it's just a question of how big of changes we're going to be making. The most important thing is to write a very detailed lab script for to send off to the lab alongside the scanned in trial denture if we make changes to it, so that they really understand of what changes you're trying to communicate to them, because it's different than a conventional denture. Because in a conventional denture, you can adjust the teeth how you would like, you can adjust the occlusion how you would like. But in this case, we are trying to communicate to the lab the changes that we're trying to make so that they're able to understand what we want and come up with a final product that is in line with what our goals are for treatment. Now, if there's minor changes, like let's just say you want to move one tooth a little bit more buccally, or you want to change the rotation or angulation of one of the teeth, then we don't have to scan back in that try-in denture, because all that's going to do is just creates just very small discrepancies, but discrepancies nevertheless in our final product. But let's say we want to make a more significant change. So for this sample I have here is a digital denture that I did for one of my patients, where I wanted to adjust the VDO that the patient was not able to fully close their lips. So we ended up lowering the VDO, which I took that with a burr to the mandibular denture. So literally just chairside ground down the teeth on the posterior portion of the mandibular denture. And I took off about 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters to get to the point where it looked more natural in the patient's mouth. So in a situation like that, you could just communicate to them of, hey, I'd like to lower VDO by 2 millimeters on the mandibular denture. Or what you can do is just scan in this denture that was adjusted chair side. I also made some minor adjustments to the intaglio as well on both dentures. So we're going to go through and we're going to scan in this trial denture that was adjusted and send this off to the lab. Now, the workflow for this is very similar to the wax rim phase. So we're going to go to the 3Shape Dental Manager right here. And we're going to get back to this same fun screen as well. So same thing as before. Hopefully you know the drill by now. We're going to go to New in the top left and create a new order. Again, change it to Michael Gimity. Order number, we're just going to say sample adjusted try-in. And then we're going to select the maxillary and the mandibular arch. Again, clicking on the second molar and then holding down Shift to go click on the contralateral second molar to select the arch. We're going to kind of come down here to gingiva, click on copy denture on the far right, verify that everything's correct, and just make sure that we do have object type selected as a model. And then we're going to go straight into scanning it. Now, if you would like some more in-depth steps on this, again, refer to the wax rim video. I'm assuming by this point you've already watched that video, and so you're pretty familiar with the process. So I'm not going to go through all of the intricate details for this. But we're here for the maxillary scan now for the top side. Again, we're scanning both the top side and the bottom side for both the maxillary and mandibular dentures. So let's go over to the scanner, get the top side scan set up, and then we're going to come back to the computer here in a second.
All right, so we're ready to go for our top side scan for scanning in our adjusted try-ins that we adjusted chair side at the appointment. And so we're going to, just the same as before, use the taller scanning platform. And again, position 1 goes in position 1 right here, and position 2 right here goes with position 2 closer to the wall. The mandibular denture will go in the first position. So we're going to take the same sticky wax as before. Because these are much lighter than our wax rims, this is where it's really important to make sure it's stuck down, because it doesn't have the weight to kind of stay as still as the wax rims sometimes can. So same thing as before. The sticky wax just goes in this anterior intaglio surface, and we're going to stick that in. Anterior is always facing in towards the wall, and then the same thing for the maxillary one. We're going to put this on the palate and scan this in like this. And now we're ready to scan.
All right, now that we have the try-ins perfectly situated in the desktop scanner, we're gonna go ahead and scan the top side. And again, there is no scan button, we're just going to hit next. And as always, it's just making sure that we have the mandibular denture put in position 1, which is gonna be closest to us, and then the maxillary denture put in position 2, which is furthest from us. And we are using the taller stands for these rather than the shorter ones that we would use for a model. So as we can see here, the maxillary top side is getting scanned in. It's processing right now, but this is what we're looking like here. Now, one of the things that I did talk about in the wax rim video is that when you have super smooth surfaces, the scanner can oftentimes struggle to fully pick up all of those details. Now, you might be thinking, if you've had one of these try-ins in your hand, it's a really, really smooth surface. But actually, because we print it on our 3D printer upstairs, which you guys watched the video for, that printer prints at about a 50 micron resolution. So even though it appears really smooth, it actually has literally 50 micron large indentations. Like that, those are the bumps in which it's able to print the denture. So even though it appears really smooth, it actually scans absolutely beautifully because of those small indentations. So you can see here that this is that same case from that wax rim that we had that had all of the extra wax on the palette. You can see all that wax is gone. So I promise I wasn't kidding when I said that those areas are not as important to be super clean. So this looks good for the top side scan for the maxillary. So let's go on to the mandible as well. Now, this is where you can see the adjustment I made chair side to the VDO. Now, what this accomplished was actually two things. So you can notice that I only adjusted the mandibular posterior teeth. And part of this was that there was a combination of the too over open for the VDO, but also there was a bit of an anterior open bite as well. And so by kind of setting this new plane of occlusion that you can see right here, where the posterior teeth, we pretty much just dropped that angle down to, it was about 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters on the posterior. That adjusted occlusal plane actually resulted in a final product that was phenomenal. The patient loved it, no anterior open bite at all, and a very natural appearing VDO. So this looks great for our top side scan. So let's go over to the scanner and we're going to flip them over and go to the bottom side scan now.
So in order to flip these over, you're just going to take this off, remove the blue tack. I would just put it right here kind of on the anterior teeth. You'll see that utilizing this blue tack is much easier on these try-in dentures than it is on the wax rim, just because you have more surface to kind of stick it into. So then we're going to do the same thing for the maxillary one as well. For this one, I do like to go on the anterior instead, just because you're able to kind of form it over the teeth, and it stays in place really well. So again, what we're looking for this is to make sure that it is raised off of the scanning platform, just to allow our trimming phase to be a little bit easier on us. And now we are ready to scan the intaglio surface.
All right, our dentures are flipped over on the scanner, and so now we are ready to go ahead and go to the bottom side scan. So again, we click on bottom side scan right here, and we're gonna hit next because there is no scan button. And while that's scanning, we can go ahead and start trimming this top side. So again, for this, we wanna make sure the overlap is about 3 to 5 millimeters. So I'm gonna draw my line here for the top side scan for the maxillary denture right around here, and then my goal for the bottom side is gonna be closer to up here. So we're just gonna go through with our points again, and you can see it's much smoother than it was previously with the wax rims. Overall, it's resembling a denture, which is great. And so This is also really great to scan in again if we make some changes to the intaglio. If there's areas that are kind of bothering the patient, then we can adjust those accordingly. I don't like how that came across right there, so I'm gonna come through here. Now, I mentioned in the wax rim video that one of the areas that these struggle with the most is this posterior portion. Now, the wax rim actually did a great job with it because that was so thick in that area. That, I mean, we had the custom tray with the final impression material in there, the border molding material. So it had a lot of extra thickness, which gave us much more margin for error, which we unfortunately don't have for scanning in these trial dentures. So with that, I'll show you in the alignment. We're gonna have to be very specific with our alignment, and there's probably gonna be some small holes and stuff that won't be too big of a deal that we can fill in. So through here, our upper, so we're onto the bottom side scan now. You can see the intaglio, looks great. No issues there. So for the top side scan, we came through about right here. So I'm gonna go a little bit more occlusal to that to make sure we got that 3 to 5 millimeters of overlap through here. Again, it's not an exact science, as you can see. So we're going to come through here, and this is where we're going to have to get very careful. We're just trying to make sure we define this border as well as we can. Like I said, we'll check the alignment to see if there's any holes. What I found that's really helpful is just get a line on there. Set a line, even if it's not perfect the first time around. Generally speaking, it's better than you think it is. And then when we go to align the two of them, then we'll be able to make specific changes to accommodate the specific anatomy of the denture. So right here it says alignment failed. But if we hit OK, we can see that actually sometimes it just lies to us because this actually looks like it's aligned very, very well. I mean, this is textbook all through here. If we go to the posterior portion, I'll be honest with you, this is a little bit better than I thought it would be. You can come through here and you see that there are some small holes. A hole that size, we're not worried about at all. Like I said, the software will go ahead and fill those in. Then also, if there is just a little bit of slight inaccuracy on the overlap back here, again, we're not too concerned about that area because it's not tissue bearing. The software will fill that in. Now, if there was weird overlap here on the intaglio or something, then that would be a completely different story. That we would adjust that and fix that. But if we go through here, I'm happy with all of it. There is one, if we look from this direction, there is a little bit of a lip that's forming back here. And there is a chance that could be tissue forming kind of back there on the soft palate. So I am going to correct that. So like we've said before, yellow is going to be the top side scan and the white is the bottom side scan. So back here on the patient's posterior right, I'm going to just move this line up to there. So we're going to go to top side scan, right back here, patient's right. It's right here in this area. So we're just going to kind of, I'm going to draw a little line right here. And sometimes it doesn't like to move. There we go. Move that up a little bit. As you can see, it's really not that much at all. We probably would be fine without adjusting this, but for the sake of the argument, I would like to show you guys that. So again, we come back here. And yeah, so it's actually a little bit of a hole now, which is fine because the software will fill that in, no problem. But what it does still capture is just to make sure, just posterior to the tuberosity back there over towards this, pretty close to the soft palate, just making sure that we've got that bottom side scan there. So I like this. This looks really, really good. And like I said, all these little holes it'll fill in, and I'll show you that here in a second. So for the mandibular denture, same deal. Trim the top side scan. We're going to come through here for the top side scan, and then the bottom side scan, we'll make sure we have some overlap more like up here. So we're coming through here. Again, you can see the wax down there that we use. I want to come just up here. Just because with the angulation of those bottom side scans, I want to just make sure that we're getting the entire vestibule from the bottom side scan, just for accuracy's sake. We're going to come back here. Like I said, these retromolar pad areas can be a little bit finicky. If we come through here, you can kind of see the software when it scans originally, it creates a little bit of excess from what's actually scanned. And one of the tricks to kind of tell what's excess and what's not, and what's the actual denture, it's going to be the excess part is always really smooth, and it just lacks the natural dips and depressions and hills that the actual denture normally does. So in my mind, all of this right here is excess that's not really there, and the actual denture is going to be starting right up through here, kind of in that groove that I'm going to be tracing through here. So we're going to come through here, flip it back to the cameo surface, which I like that a lot. So we're going to come through here. Again, this is all that wax that we put on there just to make sure it stays still while it's scanning. And then we're going to come through here. Oh, so we're going to come a little bit more on the retromolar pad area. Come through here. And that looks great. So, like I said, we're going to go to the bottom side scan trim now. Like we said before, our top side line was right here, so we're trying to overlap that, so go about 3 to 5 millimeters up. And you can see this is not super exact at all. We are just trying to make sure that we just get all the areas that we would like. We're going to come through here as well. There's the wax again. And because these tri-end dentures are much lighter than the wax rims, because again, in the wax rims we've got all that impression material and the wax rims on top of that, they do get to be a little bit on the heavy side. It takes a lot more wax to hold the wax rims in place, just that sticky wax that we use to adhere it there. So this looks solid from the bottom side scan, so let's go ahead and align. And this looks really solid. Now, that looks fine through there. Again, we're looking at all those margins and stuff. So I actually don't love how much of this top scan that I brought onto the retromolar pad area. This one actually picked it up really well. So I'm going to go through and I'm actually going to just kind of move this line of the topside scan a little bit more towards the occlusal portion. So go to trim right here, back through here. I'm just going to come all the way up there. We're going to come right down here instead. Perfect. Let's see how that looks. Align denture parts. Yeah, so you can see we have this little hole right here. Obviously, we would like to maybe fill that in a little bit. What I'm going to show you actually is I'm going to leave it and I'm going to see how the software fills that in for us just to kind of illustrate that point. So again, on the right side, we've got that hole. Now we're going to go through and do the bite scan really quick.
We're going to take our try-ins off of the scanner, and what we're going to do is whenever we're doing a try-in appointment, you need to make sure that you're always taking a bite registration at that appointment. Because what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we've got our bite registration in there, make sure that it's all seated, and then same thing as before, we're just going to place a little bit of this blue wax in the anterior portion, stick it down onto the scanner, and then now we're ready to scan the occlusion.
I'm going to hit next, and we're going to go ahead and scan it. Now, one of the things that you'll see is we will have to align these manually, just like we did for the wax rims. But because we have teeth on there, it actually makes this process much easier because you can just select a specific area on a tooth, and it does a really good job of that. So through here, looks accurate to what we're looking at clinically. So going to go ahead and align the lower arch manually. And so this is where I literally just come through here, pick one point on a tooth that you can verify. We're going to choose the central incisor right here. And there we go. We got that speckled overlap between the two of them. And you can see here, this is the variance from the points that I selected. They weren't super accurate, but again, it brings them to that point and then it moves it around until it gets pretty close. We're going to align the upper arch right now too. So I don't know, just choose something on the central incisor right there. And boom. Hey, that was a lot closer on that one, so go me. That one looks really good. Again, we got that speckled throughout. And even though it looks like there's not great overlap on this side, there is some over here, but the fact that this aligned perfectly kind of through this entire quadrant is what we're looking for this. So let's go to alignment results. We can see right here with the adjusted occlusion, this is what we were looking at clinically. Now, one of the things also with this is you can see that we've kind of lost that class 1 relationship. And this is just going to be something to mention in the lab note of, hey, this is our remounted cast. These are the changes that we made, and these are the changes that we would like to have. So let's hit next here, inspect it. And again, we're going to go to design to trick the software to think that we're done with this and that we're ready to design. But really, we're not. Not in this video, at least. So we're going to hit X up here to close the order. Don't save the design because, well, there is no design. And then we got here sample adjusted try-in. We got the little scanned icon on there, so we know that it's scanned. So we'll right-click on this like before, hit advanced, and then go to export scan. So same thing, we're over here. It always does the upper first, so we're going to go to an STL. I'm going to go to Gimity, adjusted, try, and 1. Now, one of the most important things with this is all of my stuff on here, so there's a bunch of random stuff. But we're going to have all of these files in one folder per patient. And in order to really do a good job of keeping track of all of these, because if you really think about it, let's say, most patients are going to have 2 try-in appointments. Sometimes you'll have 1, sometimes you'll have more than 2. It just kind of depends on the case. And so if you think about it, this one folder is going to have scans from the wax rim. It's going to have the try-in, the first try-in that was sent from the lab that we 3D printed. If we scan it back in, it's going to have the adjusted first try-in. We're going to get a second try-in file. Maybe we'll have an adjusted second try-in file. We'll get the final file. And so these files start to add up really quickly, especially because we've got both upper and lower for all of these. And so it's really important that we are very specific with our naming. You can see through here, these are very long names, but it's really important that we do a good job of naming our stuff consistently and naming it very specifically, just so that we don't accidentally say 3D print the first try-in when we're trying to do the second try-in. So numbering it, making sure all the names are in there is really important. And then this was the upper as well. So we're going to put that in there, hit save. Going to do the same for the lower, hit save, and we're good on that. Let me go through really quick. I'll pull up a sample lab note that I actually wrote for this patient so we can kind of go through of what we're looking for something like this as just an example. All right, so here's the lab script that I sent along with these scans. Again, this is my own case, so I apologize if this isn't, if my grammar is poor. I don't think there's spelling issues, but there might be. So what I wrote is just, hey, I adjusted the original try-in and have uploaded the scans. Please design a new try-in that incorporates these design alterations and changes. The most significant change is the reduction of the VDO and a change in the occlusal plane. The majority of the adjustment was on the mandibular denture. Please set the teeth based on the newly developed occlusal plane. Please also adjust the occlusion to a class 1 relationship based on the new occlusal plane. Forgot to add an E in there. Whoops, sorry about that. This is really important that when you're chairside with your patient, you need to be going through these changes with your faculty, because like I said, these digital dentures are great, but it is a very big shift from a conventional denture, because on a conventional denture, you can sit there, you can move the teeth, you know what you'd like, but you're sending this off to a lab technician who's incredibly talented at designing these, but they haven't seen the patient. They don't know what you know. So oftentimes I'll take intraoral photos as well and send those as well, which I did for this case because there was a little bit of an anterior open bite, and it got fixed in the second try-in. But really, this is important of a few things. You need to understand what you're trying to change. You need to understand what you're trying to change, and you need to be able to communicate that to the lab. Otherwise, if they don't know what you're trying to change, then it's going to be a very frustrating process. So this is a great lesson just for big picture when you get out in private practice of making sure you're communicating well with your labs. Now, I'll be honest, this is a little bit of a wordy lab script. I could probably cut half of this filler out and still communicate the same thing. So, whoops, I'm sorry. I guess this is a do as I say, not as I do. But really just clearly communicating with them and then also providing them with the information that they will need in order to make the changes that you would like. Now, even though this lab script had its flaws, intraoral photos I think really helped out. And this was the, spoiler alert, I guess, this was the design for the second try-in, that you can see that they reconstructed these mandibular teeth based on the new occlusal plane. Got a solid class 1 relationship through here, no anterior open bite at all, and also through the posterior here. Canines look great, molars look great in relation, and the rest of it is the same as before. Now, the other thing, too, that oftentimes you'll do with these setups is kind of round out this buccal portion of the vestibule. This is already adjusted because I did do that chair side, but just making sure that sometimes you just have to round that out because there can kind of be a little bit of a lip there that patients find uncomfortable. So now that we've finished getting back the second try-in, if you do need it, we're just going to rinse and repeat. We're going to go right back to that same step that we were on before of 3D printing this try-in, which you'll then try in chair side and make whatever changes you would like. Like I said before, you don't always have to rescan in the changes that you make. Really, that's going to be up to your faculty. But big picture, I just want you to be thinking of if you're making really major changes, and also if you're making changes that you would like to see clinically in the mouth, just because it's like, in this case, the reason I adjusted this chair side and reduced the VDO was I frankly, we were unsure if it was going to be 1 millimeter, if it was going to be 2 millimeters or 1.5 millimeters. So being able to do that chair side of actually taking a handpiece, adjusting the try-in denture, and then scanning in those changes is kind of a great merging of the two worlds, if you will. That merging more the conventional side where you're able to adjust things chair side or in the lab after the appointment, and this digital workflow as well, while still being, educational for all of us. All right, so that does it for scanning back in our trial denture or our try-in denture. And we would just repeat this process for however many try-ins we have to do. Now, like I said in the video, we don't always have to scan back in our try-in. It's only if there's a specific reason to do so, and you should work with your faculty to decide if that's something that we need to do for this case. But that just about does it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.